Have you ever wondered why some people always seem one step ahead, while others spend their lives reacting too late? In a world driven by ambition, influence, and quiet competition, those who understand the deeper nature of power rarely speak of it. They simply use it. Over 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli wrote a book not to impress, but to reveal. What he uncovered wasn't theory, it was survival. Beneath the surface of manners and morals lies a set of truths about how people move, lead, and win. And though the world has changed, those truths have not. In this video, we explore 8 timeless principles drawn from Machiavelli's wisdom, reframed through the lens of Stoic clarity. They are not about deception, they are about discernment. If you're ready to see power not as something distant, but as something already shaping your life, stay with me. This might change how you move through the world. 1. Adapt or decay. The man who craves lasting success must learn one thing above all else: to move with the rhythm of change. Like a seasoned sailor who cannot command the wind but can adjust his sails, you must be willing to shift your approach when the world no longer responds to your old efforts. This is not about giving up, it's about choosing wisdom over pride. In Stoic thought, stability isn't found in clinging to fixed plans. It is found in remaining anchored in virtue, even as the current shifts beneath your feet. Seneca once said, "Fate leads the willing, but drags the unwilling." The Stoic is not dragged by change, he walks alongside it. He does not resist the seasons, he becomes attuned to them. Success in life is not about having one flawless strategy. It's about recognizing when the environment no longer serves that strategy and having the inner strength to let it go. To adapt is not to betray your vision, it's to honor it. Only the fool confuses stubbornness with perseverance. The wise man knows when to continue, when to pause, and when to evolve. Take the story of Nintendo. Before it became one of the world's most iconic video game companies, it began as a small business producing handmade playing cards in Kyoto. For nearly a century, that was its path. But as times changed, so did Nintendo. It experimented with taxis, with instant rice, with toys. None of them lasted. But in that process of trial, error, and reflection, it discovered what aligned with its nature. Eventually, it found its rhythm in digital entertainment. And because it was willing to adapt without losing its commitment to innovation and play, it not only survived, it shaped the world. Stoicism teaches us that life is a mixture of what we can control and what we cannot. Our strategies, our routines, our plans, they belong to the outer world. But our ability to examine, respond, and adjust with calm, this belongs to us. This is our domain, so when your plans falter, when the road bends sharply, do not curse the turn. See it as the universe reminding you to return to yourself, to recalibrate. Don't fall in love with your first idea. Don't build your identity on one method. The Stoic learns not to grip, but to hold lightly. You must have the courage to abandon even a beloved strategy if it no longer serves your growth. Keep your mind sharp and your hands open. If your path to mastery requires a new technique, take it. If your dream needs a new form, reshape it. The essence remains, but the expression must evolve. The Stoics remind us that the obstacle becomes the path, but sometimes the obstacle is not a block to overcome, but a sign to change direction. There's a hidden strength in agility, in silence, in observation, in willingness to say, "This no longer works, what else can I do?" Marcus Aurelius faced war, plague, and betrayal. Yet he remained unshaken, not because the events around him were stable, but because he was. So ask yourself, Are you forcing your way through a plan that has outlived its usefulness? Are you defending a method out of pride or loyalty to your past self? Or are you willing to live by reason, examining, adjusting, and aligning with what the present moment calls for? The Stoic warrior doesn't only prepare for battle, he also prepares to shift formation when the terrain demands it. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Have a plan, but also prepare for it to fall apart. And when it does, rebuild, not with despair, but with clarity. Remember, it's not your attachment to one path that defines you. It's your unshakable commitment to move forward, even if that means walking a new road. Adaptation is not surrender. It is strategic courage. And those who practice it not only survive, they shape their fate with their own hands. Because the real enemy of success is not failure. It's rigidity. And that brings us to the next principle. In a world driven by influence, control, and dominance, we must ask, is it better to be feared or to be respected? 2. Respect over approval. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." On the surface, this may sound harsh, even cold, but look deeper and you'll find something the Stoics would understand. That in matters of leadership, friendship, and influence, affection alone is not enough. A person who is merely liked inspires comfort, but a person who is respected inspires action. The Stoic does not seek to be adored. He seeks to live in accordance with nature, with justice and discipline, not popularity. He understands that if his aim is only to be loved, he will be tossed by the whims of others, always bending, always adjusting, never grounded. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to be strong, focus not on pleasing the crowd, but on mastering yourself. A man who lives by reason does not chase applause. He earns respect by being unwavering in principle and unflinching in responsibility. In the real world, this difference matters. Think of the man who leads a team, not through jokes and friendship, but through vision and consistency. He may not be the most liked person in the room, but when a crisis hits, he is the one others turn to. Because fear, when rightly understood, not terror, but reverence, brings order. It demands attention. It creates clarity. Look at Steve Jobs. He wasn't known for being gentle or agreeable. Many who worked with him described the experience as intense, even brutal at times. But what did that intensity produce? Innovation that reshaped the world. People didn't show up to impress Steve because they liked him. They showed up because they respected him. They feared wasting the opportunity, feared falling short of the standard he embodied. That fear, rooted in respect, not cruelty, pushed them beyond their limits. And in doing so, it created excellence. To a Stoic, fear of a person is not about intimidation. It's about accountability. The kind of presence you carry when others know you don't tolerate mediocrity, not because you crave control, but because you value discipline. Stoicism calls this integrity, when your expectations are not based on your moods, but on your values. When people know where you stand, and more importantly, know you'll stand there even when it's inconvenient, that's when you earn respect. Now consider the opposite. A leader who only wants to be liked often ends up betraying both himself and those around him. He avoids difficult conversations. He tolerates dishonesty. He lets standards slip, all in the name of being accepted. But in the long run, those around him don't admire him more. They trust him less. Because the one who's afraid to lead with firmness will never command true loyalty. And the one who pleases everyone often loses himself. The Stoics teach us that we must choose substance over surface. Your goal should not be to make others comfortable. It should be to remind them of what they're capable of. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." If you crave the approval of others, you will always be their servant. But if you live by virtue and clarity, their respect follows, whether or not they smile at you. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing affection and start living with self-command, people begin to follow you. Not because you entertain them, but because you challenge them to become something better. That's the kind of influence that outlasts applause. It's the kind of leadership that remains, even in silence. So ask yourself, do you want to be remembered as someone who was liked for making others feel good, or respected for making them stronger? Respect does not require cruelty, but it does require courage. It means choosing clarity over charm, boundaries over approval, principles over popularity. And as we continue down this path, remember this: leadership without discipline collapses into noise. But when clarity meets firmness, something else emerges, a force that commands not just attention, but alignment. Which leads us to the next lesson. The man who endures must know when to walk with the cunning of the fox, and when to strike with the power of the lion. 3. Think like a fox, strike like a lion. Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler must learn to be both a fox and a lion. The fox to recognize the snares laid in his path, and the lion to drive off the wolves who circle him. This is not poetic metaphor. It is a reflection of what life demands from those who wish to lead, build, and endure. And the Stoics would nod in agreement, not because they believed in manipulation, but because they believed in strength guided by clarity. The fox is the mind, agile, observant, and strategic. The lion is the will, bold, unwavering, and willing to act with force when the moment calls for it. A man who has only the fox's cleverness may see every danger but shrink from confrontation. A man who has only the lion's strength may charge into ruin without realizing it. But the one who carries both, who thinks with precision and acts with courage, he is the one who cannot be easily trapped or broken. Stoic thought values this harmony deeply. Marcus Aurelius didn't survive the throne of Rome by philosophy alone. He watched for threats, moved with caution, and acted with power when it was time. He didn't panic in chaos. He observed, and when the moment arrived, he struck, not from emotion, but from judgment. Let's take a modern example. Think of Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. When he took over in 2014, the company was aging, bloated, and quickly losing relevance in a tech world that was evolving faster than its internal culture. Nadella stepped in quietly like a fox, watching the terrain, listening more than speaking, studying the traps of ego, tradition, and complacency that had nearly brought the company to its knees. Then, once he had clarity, he acted with the power of a lion. He pivoted Microsoft's focus to cloud computing, trimmed unnecessary divisions, and rebuilt trust among developers and innovators. Today, Microsoft stands stronger than ever, not because Nadella chased popularity, but because he moved with insight and struck with courage. To live as a Stoic in the modern world, you must carry both these energies. You must train your mind to observe before it judges. You must learn to detect deception, vanity, false promises, both in others and in yourself. This is the work of the fox. And then, when the time comes to speak, to lead, to set a boundary, or to make a move others are too hesitant to make, you must call upon the lion. This is not aggression. This is assertive clarity born from reason. Seneca said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. That courage must be deliberate. The fox sees the trap. The lion does not fear the one who laid it." That's the balance Stoicism asks of us. not to choose between intellect or bravery, but to bring both into harmony through the discipline of self-mastery. You may find yourself in situations where you know the right thing to do, but lack the strength to act. Or perhaps you're quick to act, but too slow to see the broader game being played around you. Both are gaps in your character, and both can be fortified. Study the terrain. Prepare in silence. And when it's time, move. Do not hesitate, do not explain, and do not look back. The Stoic path does not reward the one who merely reacts. It rewards the one who responds with precision. Like the fox, you must navigate the world with your eyes open. Like the lion, you must never retreat when truth must be defended. So let this be your reminder. Observe deeply, move wisely, and act with force when the moment demands it. Do not be only clever or only strong. Be complete. That is how you survive the game. And more importantly, that is how you remain untouched by it. Because in the end, it is not cunning alone or strength alone that leads to greatness. It is the quiet power of someone who sees clearly and moves decisively. And now that we've understood how clarity and action must walk hand in hand, we turn to something even more subtle, the lens through which you see the world itself. The next principle is about perception, the silent architect of your entire life. For your presence is power. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. These words from Machiavelli carry a weight that the Stoics understood well. In a world that judges swiftly and rarely looks beneath the surface, appearance is not vanity, it is armor. The Stoic does not dress to deceive. He crafts his presence with intention, knowing that first impressions often decide which doors will open and which remain sealed. You may live with integrity, but if your presence signals chaos, weakness, or distraction, don't be surprised when others treat you accordingly. This is not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about ensuring that your outer expression does not betray the inner strength you've worked so hard to build. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. But part of being one is also appearing as one. You do not hide behind a mask. You wear your discipline like a shield." In the Stoic tradition, perception matters. Why? Because perception shapes response. Walk into a room with your shoulders slumped, eyes cast down, voice hesitant, and you may be wise, even brilliant, but people won't hear it. Walk in steady, still, with the quiet confidence of someone who governs himself, and the room listens before you speak. It's not magic. It's the natural law of influence. Even the most reasoned world still moves at first by instinct. Consider how a seasoned martial artist carries himself through a crowded street. He doesn't flaunt, but he radiates awareness. He walks with posture, with presence. He is alert, but not afraid. And those around him, even strangers, sense it. Muggers don't look twice. Why? Because he does not look like prey. Not because of his words, not because of a show of force, but because of how he holds his space. This same principle applies in the boardroom, in negotiations, in friendships, even in silence. If you lead a team, build a business, or wish to influence others, understand this: the world does not first ask who you are. It asks what you signal, and then it decides how to treat you. The Stoic accepts this not with bitterness, but with clarity. He prepares his inner life with virtue and his outer life with form. He does not drift through the world unguarded. He meets it standing tall. In today's digital age, this is even more crucial. Your posture, your tone, your words, your habits online, they all paint a picture far before your philosophy has a chance to speak. A distracted man scrolling through his phone in public, headphones blaring, eyes unfocused, he sends a message. I am not watching. I am not present. I am a soft target, not only to thieves, but to the manipulations and chaos of the world. But the man who moves with awareness, who looks people in the eye, who keeps his phone in his pocket and his mind in the room, he sends another message entirely. I govern myself. The Stoics called this prohairesis, the power of choice, of attention, of control over your own judgment. And when you carry this inner force with consistency, the outer world adjusts. So no, it's not about being fake. It's about alignment. The man who thinks clearly should also look like he does. The one who lives with purpose should walk like he has one. When there's harmony between the inner and outer, you become unshakable, not because others finally understand you, but because you no longer depend on them to. Let your presence speak your discipline. Let your silence reveal your awareness. You don't need to shout, you just need to show up fully. When your presence reflects your principles, you won't need to demand respect. It will meet you at the door. And that brings us to the next lesson. Once your presence commands the space, how do you move within it? With force or with strategy? The Stoic answer is clear, and we'll explore it next. 5. Outthink, don't outshout. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. At first glance, this may sound unworthy of a Stoic, but look closer and you'll find it aligns perfectly with the Stoic principle of right action guided by reason. Machiavelli was not promoting deceit. He was pointing to the power of foresight, of choosing precision over chaos, and intelligent positioning over brute conflict. The Stoic does not rush into battle at every provocation. He pauses, reflects, and asks, is this the most effective path? Am I choosing the fight because it's necessary or because it flatters my pride? As Epictetus reminds us, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. But that glory must be earned through wisdom, not recklessness. Winning with unnecessary cost is not victory, it's misjudgment. Force is tempting, it's loud, it makes us feel powerful. But the Stoic knows power is not in noise, but in results. The man who can move without being seen, speak without being heard, and act without resistance, he is the one who holds true advantage. He achieves more because he wastes nothing. Take Toyota, for example. In the 1960s and 70s, American car manufacturers dominated the US market with large, fuel-hungry vehicles. Competing head-on would have been a mistake, but Toyota, instead of forcing their way into the same battlefield, saw something others didn't: a gap, a quiet need, a segment of people looking for smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. They entered not with fanfare, but with foresight. And over time, they grew from a niche player into the largest automaker in the world. They didn't overpower the giants. They outmaneuvered them. This is what Stoicism teaches us in action. Why rush in when you can reshape the terrain? Why argue when you can listen first, find the weak point, and speak only when your words will land with maximum weight? Strategy is not cowardice. It's discipline with vision. In daily life, this applies more than we often realize. In business, it may mean identifying a quiet niche where you can grow freely rather than fighting for the crowded spotlight. In conversation, it means preparing your argument with clarity and leverage instead of trying to dominate by volume or emotion. In leadership, it means guiding people through insight, not imposition. A Stoic wins not by overpowering, but by understanding. He studies the structure of a problem and then acts with elegant simplicity. He saves his energy for when it truly matters. And when he moves, it is not with aggression, but with inevitability. There is a Roman general's wisdom in this mindset. The legions that marched straight into enemy traps were not brave, they were blind. The ones that scouted, waited, repositioned and cut off supply lines, they were the ones who returned home victorious. That's the heart of this principle. It is not about deceit. It is about preparation. It is about mastering the quiet game of positioning so that when the decisive moment comes, resistance is already broken. Even in personal battles, this holds true. If someone challenges you, offends you, tries to provoke a reaction, why meet fire with fire? That's not stoicism. That's surrendering to impulse. Instead, step back. See what they cannot. Let your silence unnerve. Let your awareness tighten the ground beneath their feet. When you speak, do so with clarity that leaves no room for misunderstanding. This is how a Stoic wins without drawing a sword. The goal is not to destroy others, but to rise above the fray and still accomplish what you set out to do. If you can avoid conflict and still reach your aim, that is not weakness. It is strategic mastery. So next time you feel the urge to press forward with force, ask yourself, is there a quieter way, a more precise way, a way that requires less friction but delivers greater impact? Because the true Stoic is not always the one who fights hardest. He is the one who fights least and wins most. And that leads us naturally to the next truth. Even the sharpest strategy means little if it is poorly timed. The wise not only choose their battles, they wait for their moment. Let's explore that next. 6. Move before the crowd. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. In that one line, Machiavelli captured something the Stoics had taught centuries earlier. Wisdom is not just knowing what must be done, it's knowing when to do it. And more importantly, having the clarity and will to act while others are still hesitating. In the Stoic tradition, timing is not luck. It is the product of awareness. The man who is grounded in reason is not paralyzed by uncertainty. He sees things clearly, not only because he examines them well, but because he is prepared. Seneca reminds us, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. To wait for the perfect moment is to miss the real one. Because the real moment never announces itself, it passes quietly, and only those who are watchful catch it in time. Many people eventually come to the right conclusion. They realize what must be said, what must be ended, what must be started. But by the time they act, the window has closed. The Stoic doesn't wait for overwhelming evidence to make a wise move. He recognizes the signs, he trusts the rhythm of life, and he moves deliberately, swiftly, without drama. Think of a surfer watching the waves. The untrained eye sees only water and motion. But the practiced surfer knows when to stand, when to wait, and when to let a wave pass. He doesn't argue with the ocean. He aligns with it. His timing is not reactive. It's instinct sharpened by discipline. That's how life is for the Stoic. You don't chase every opportunity, but when the one you've prepared for appears, you don't hesitate. Let's consider a real-world example. In the early 2000s, Netflix was still mailing DVDs. But the founders had already anticipated the coming rise of streaming. Instead of waiting for the market to demand it, they began building the infrastructure quietly. Others laughed. It seemed premature. But when the technology caught up and the shift became inevitable, Netflix was already there, not just right, but on time. This is the essence of the principle. It's not enough to be correct. You must also be early. The man who understands what should be done but waits for comfort or consensus is not wise. He is late. And sometimes late is no different than wrong. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This wasn't about fear, it was about urgency. The wise man lives with a sense of direction, not delay. When he sees the door open, he doesn't pause to gather applause or approval, he walks through. In your own life, this might mean ending a project that no longer serves you, even if others haven't seen its decline yet. It might mean stepping into a new challenge before you feel ready, because you sense that waiting longer won't make you any more prepared, just more fearful. Or it might mean telling the truth in a moment when silence would be safer, but your conscience knows it's time to speak. This is not impulsiveness, it's decisiveness rooted in observation. The Stoic does not rush, but he does not freeze. He walks the line between caution and courage, and when the time comes to act, he does not consult his fears, he consults his purpose. So train yourself to see the signals. Stay ready. Pay attention. The more you live in the present, not distracted, not consumed by what-ifs, the more clearly you'll see when the tide is turning in your favor. And when that moment arrives, don't just be the one who knew what to do, be the one who did it. Because in this life, the prize rarely goes to the most informed. It goes to the most prepared, the most present, and the most timely. And as we move forward, remember, decisive action means little if you're surrounded by people who slow your stride. The next step is not just what you do, but who walks with you. Let's talk about that next. 7. Guard your circle. Machiavelli once said, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." And in that one sentence, he revealed something every Stoic would affirm, that no one walks through life unaffected by their companions. Show me your inner circle, and I'll show you the boundaries of your future. The Stoic doesn't isolate himself from the world, but he is discerning. He knows that those who sit closest to him shape his habits, his thoughts, even his sense of what's possible. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts, and those thoughts are often stirred, sharpened, or dulled by the company you keep. Surround yourself with cowards, and courage will feel foreign. Walk with the distracted, and you'll forget what stillness feels like. But sit with the disciplined, the focused, the brave, and you begin to rise to meet them." Machiavelli wasn't speaking only about rulers. He was speaking about anyone who dares to lead, whether that's a nation, a business, or simply their own life. Your decisions, your standards, even your silence, all are influenced by those closest to you. That's why the Stoic guards his circle, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. He chooses to spend his time with those who live deliberately, who strive to grow, who sharpen his reason rather than flatter his ego. Consider the rise of Warren Buffett. His long-standing partnership with Charlie Munger wasn't accidental. Munger was the kind of man who didn't speak often, but when he did, his words carried the weight of thought, patience, and principle. Together, they built not just wealth, but a way of thinking, one that prized long-term vision over short-term impulse. Their relationship wasn't built on convenience, it was built on shared values. That's the kind of alliance the Stoic seeks, not just friendship, but mutual elevation. So, take a moment to reflect. Who speaks into your life? Who challenges you to become better, and who quietly pulls you toward stagnation? Do your companions honor clarity, discipline, and virtue? Or do they chase distraction, comfort, and noise? You don't have to judge harshly, but you must choose wisely. Because no one climbs with anchors tied to their ankles. The Stoic doesn't just seek solitude. He seeks the right kind of community, one that lifts, sharpens, and reflects what he aspires to become. And if he must walk alone for a season to maintain his standard, he does so, not with bitterness, but with resolve. For as Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." And now that you understand how much your circle influences your path, it's time to confront a deeper truth. Even with the best company, your journey still hinges on a single force, your ability to decide. Let's explore the art of decision-making next. 8. Disrupt with purpose. I'm not interested in preserving the status quo. I want to overthrow it. These words, often seen as rebellious, are in fact a Stoic call to courage. Not the kind of chaos born from recklessness, but the deliberate challenge of questioning what no longer serves reason, growth, or justice. Machiavelli wasn't glorifying destruction. He was pointing to the truth that stagnation, dressed in tradition, often becomes the enemy of progress. The Stoic doesn't rebel for rebellion's sake. He studies the structure of things and asks, is this aligned with nature, with purpose, with truth? If not, then it must change, no matter how long it stood. Marcus Aurelius led Rome not by maintaining every custom, but by adjusting them to the needs of his time. The goal is not blind disruption, but courageous transformation. Maintaining the current state of things may seem safe, but it often masks decay. The Stoic understands that comfort can become a prison. Sometimes what we fear most, taking a bold step, challenging a broken system, walking a different path, is far less dangerous than remaining still while the world moves on without us. Look at the story of Reed Hastings, co-founder of Netflix. In the early 2000s, Netflix had built a successful DVD by mail business. It was stable, profitable, respected, but Hastings knew the tide was changing. The future belonged to streaming. Rather than clinging to the old model, he made a decision that many at the time saw as foolish: to phase out DVDs and build a streaming platform. That move wasn't comfortable. It was criticized, even mocked. But Hastings wasn't trying to protect a past success. He was focused on building the future. Today, Netflix is a global force, not because it stayed the same, but because it had the courage to let go. This is the essence of Stoic adaptability, to recognize when something, be it a method, a habit, or even a belief, has outlived its usefulness, and to release it without hesitation. As Seneca taught, he who is brave is free. And sometimes the bravest act is walking away from what once worked, in pursuit of what is now needed. We are not here to guard the ruins of old victories. We are here to build something greater, and that requires sharp judgment, strategic risk, and the willingness to act before others dare to. The Stoic isn't afraid of the unknown. He is afraid of wasting potential by clinging to what feels safe. So ask yourself, what in your life have you been protecting out of habit, not wisdom? What systems, routines, or roles have you outgrown but still carry because they feel familiar? If you were honest, what would you dismantle today to build something stronger tomorrow? Let this be your invitation, not to destroy aimlessly, but to disrupt with clarity. Overthrow what no longer serves you. Reinvent what no longer reflects your values. The world doesn't reward the one who guards the gate. It rewards the one who has the courage to build a new path. And as you begin to make those changes, to step into unfamiliar terrain, one question will always return. How do you decide, truly decide, what to do next? That's where we go next, into the art of strategic, Stoic decision-making. Now that you've seen how timeless power really works, the real question is this: which of these principles speaks to your next move in life? Let it guide your decisions this week. If one insight from this video lit a spark in you, let that be your reason to stay with us. Subscribe if you want more tools to sharpen your thinking and strengthen your path. And in the comments, type your pick with just 2 or 3 words, your principle of power. Remember, mastery is not found in knowing everything at once, but in applying one truth with unwavering clarity. Thank you for being here. The next video will take these ideas even deeper into the heart of strategic stillness. Until then, walk with purpose, think with discipline, and lead with quiet strength.